It was supposed to be a friendly morning interview, lighthearted, warm, and sprinkled with laughter, the kind Lorraine Kelly was famous for. But that Thursday episode of Lorraine would become one of the most controversial in ITV's history. Kate Winslet, the Oscar-winning actress known for her grace and poise, was there to promote her latest environmental documentary Tides of Tomorrow. The crew was buzzing with excitement. Lorraine, ever the smiling host, welcomed her warmly as cameras rolled. But behind the smiles, a storm was brewing. "Kate, you've been quite outspoken lately about Hollywood hypocrisy," Lorraine began casually. "Do you ever worry that sometimes it comes across as lecturing?" The studio grew still. Kate shifted in her seat. "Lecturing," she repeated, forcing a polite smile. "I think it's important for public figures to use their voice responsibly, Lorraine. Especially when it concerns our planet." Lorraine chuckled softly, but it wasn't the friendly kind. Of course," she said. "But don't you think people might find it a bit ironic, someone flying around the world for film shoots telling the rest of us to cut our carbon footprints?" The audience let out an uneasy laugh. Kate's smile faltered. "I'm aware of that irony," she replied firmly. "But I've been working hard to offset my travel, and—" Lorraine interrupted, "Offsets are a nice idea, but surely, you could just travel less." Kate blinked, her posture stiffening. "I travel because it's part of my work. I don't vacation in private jets or—" "But you do fly private, don't you?" Lorraine pressed. That did it. Kate's composure cracked for the first time. "Lorraine, are we here to discuss environmental issues or my personal flight history?" A murmur rippled through the audience. Lorraine tried to recover with a diplomatic smile. "Just asking what the viewers might be thinking, darling." Kate's tone cooled. "Then perhaps your viewers should focus on corporations polluting oceans rather than one actress trying to make a difference." The tension was unmistakable. The producer's voice came through Lorraine's earpiece, warning her to dial it down. But Lorraine wasn't done. She sensed a headline in the making, and maybe, a viral moment. "So, do you think your guilt over fame drives your activism?" she asked. Kate's eyes flashed. "Excuse me." Lorraine leaned forward. "You've often said you're uncomfortable with celebrity culture. Maybe this environmental work is your way of feeling more grounded." Kate let out a short, humorless laugh. "You're implying it's performative," she said slowly. "That's insulting. I do this because I care, not because I need to feel grounded." Lorraine smiled thinly. "No insult meant, Kate. It's just—" But before she could finish, Kate's voice rose, clear and sharp. "Lorraine, I came here to talk about the documentary, not to justify my conscience to a morning show." The audience gasped. Lorraine's expression froze, her practiced warmth faltering. "Well," she said, voice clipped, "we like a bit of passion in the morning." The rest of the interview was painfully awkward. Lorraine attempted to steer the discussion back to Tides of Tomorrow, but the atmosphere was beyond saving. Kate's answers were brief, her gaze distant. When the segment ended, Lorraine offered her hand, but Kate merely nodded, muttered, "Thank you," and walked off stage before the cameras had even cut. Backstage chaos erupted. Producers tried to calm both sides. Lorraine, visibly flustered, was overheard saying, "She completely overreacted, I was just doing my job." Kate, meanwhile, told her publicist, "That was unprofessional and humiliating. I'm done with these shallow shows." Within hours, clips of the exchange began circulating on social media. One snippet, Lorraine saying, "Don't you think people find it ironic?" followed by Kate's frosty silence, racked up millions of views. Fans were divided. Some called Lorraine rude and condescending. Others said Kate couldn't handle tough questions. Twitter turned into a battlefield of hot takes and hashtags. #Team Kate vs #Team Lorraine. ITV initially tried to downplay the incident, but tabloids pounced. The Daily Mail ran the headline, "Winslet's meltdown on morning TV, diva or defender." By afternoon, rumors spread that Kate's team had demanded the clip be removed from ITV's official YouTube channel. An insider leaked that Kate was furious and had vowed never to appear on Lorraine again. Behind the scenes, Lorraine's producers debated how to handle the fallout. The show thrived on celebrity charm, not controversy, and alienating an A-lister like Winslet was risky. But ratings had already skyrocketed. People were tuning in, rewatching, debating. The next morning, Lorraine addressed the incident briefly on air. Yesterday's interview with Kate Winslet certainly got people talking, she said, smiling tightly. We had a spirited conversation about climate issues, and sometimes, that's what good television is. But viewers weren't fooled. Lorraine's tone betrayed irritation, and the apology, if it could be called that, only fueled more speculation. Meanwhile, Kate released a short statement through her publicist. I'm passionate about environmental advocacy and believe meaningful dialogue should be rooted in respect, not provocation. The comment was widely seen as a subtle jab at Lorraine. By the weekend, media outlets were reporting that ITV had quietly edited the interview for rebroadcast, cutting several of Lorraine's more pointed remarks. Still, the damage was done. For the first time in her career, Lorraine Kelly was accused of crossing a line. And as for Kate Winslet, she had unintentionally sparked a national conversation about celebrity responsibility, media ethics, and what happens when morning TV turns into a battleground. But what few people knew was that Lorraine hadn't said her last word yet. The morning after the clash, the world was still buzzing. News outlets replayed the confrontation on loop, dissecting every glance, every breath. Lorraine Kelly, the usually unflappable queen of British morning television, had never been under such scrutiny. And Kate Winslet, the beloved face of Titanic and countless dramas, was suddenly being painted as difficult and overly sensitive. Producers at ITV gathered in a tense emergency meeting. The show's senior executive, Martin Draper, slammed his palm on the table. "We can't afford a war with Kate Winslet," he said firmly. "She's one of Britain's most respected actresses." Lorraine, seated at the end of the long conference table, crossed her arms. "I didn't attack her," she said coolly. "I asked questions, that's my job." "Yes," Martin replied, "but you pressed too hard. It came across as personal." Lorraine's tone sharpened. "We don't cancel interviews because celebrities don't like being challenged. If she can't take a little heat, maybe she shouldn't come on live TV." The room went silent. Even her producer, Hannah, looked uneasy. Meanwhile, across London, Kate Winslet sat in her quiet home, scrolling through a tidal wave of online reactions. Her phone buzzed non-stop, messages from colleagues, friends, journalists, and even other actors. Her longtime friend and fellow actor, Emma Thompson, had sent a simple text. "Don't let them twist this. You stood your ground. Proud of you." But not everyone was supportive. Some tabloids accused her of being out of touch, mocking her climate crusader attitude. Others questioned her authenticity. Her daughter, Mia, watched her mother's frustration boil over. "Mum, don't read it," she said softly. "They just want you angry." Kate sighed, placing her phone face down. "I just wanted to talk about something important," she murmured. And it turned into a circus. Later that evening, ITV released an official statement, short and sterile. Lorraine Kelly's interview with Kate Winslet sparked passionate discussion. "Both women are respected for their contributions to British culture. We consider the matter closed." But the matter was far from closed. The following Monday, Lorraine opened her show with her usual charm, or at least tried to. "Good morning. What a weekend, She laughed nervously. "Lots of chat about last Thursday's interview with Kate Winslet. I've had a lot of thoughts." Producers shifted uncomfortably behind the cameras. Lorraine wasn't supposed to address it again. But she continued. "I want to say this clearly," she said, turning directly to the camera. "I respect Kate Winslet deeply. She's one of our greatest talents. But I also believe that interviews should be honest, not rehearsed PR speeches. I asked what many people were thinking. If that makes me the villain, so be it." Social media exploded again. Some applauded her courage, others called it arrogance. Lorraine's doubling down, one headline read. "Kelly refuses to apologize." Kate, on the other hand, remained silent. She decided against making any further public statements, until a journalist from The Guardian called, requesting a one-on-one interview, to clear the air. Reluctantly, she agreed. The article, published under the title, "Kate Winslet, Speaking Truth in a Noisy World," went viral. In it, Kate spoke calmly but firmly. "I respect journalism. But what happened wasn't journalism, it was theater. When meaningful issues are reduced to sound bites and mockery, we all lose." The tone was graceful, measured, and devastatingly effective. Public opinion began shifting back in her favor. Lorraine's ratings, which had soared in the immediate aftermath, started dipping as the criticism mounted. Viewers accused her of bullying and cheap TV tactics. ITV executives noticed. Behind closed doors, discussions began about giving Lorraine a temporary break. She found out through a leaked report, and she was furious. During a private call with Martin Draper, she snapped, "You're punishing me because I didn't bow down to her Hollywood ego." Martin sighed. "Lorraine, this isn't about ego. It's about tone. You're the nation's morning smile, not the nation's interrogator." That night, Lorraine couldn't sleep. For the first time in her long career, she felt cornered. Her confidence, her greatest weapon, began to falter. 3 days later, she walked into the studio to find the atmosphere unusually quiet. Her assistant approached her gently. "Lorraine, there's been a decision." The executive producer stepped forward. "We're pulling you off the show for a week. We'll say it's for rest and personal time." Lorraine froze. "You're suspending me." "No, just a cooling off period." But everyone knew the truth. That morning, a guest presenter hosted Lorraine in her place. Twitter erupted. Lorraine Kelly kicked off her own show after Kate Winslet clash. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Lorraine spent that week reflecting, watching the coverage, reading the comments she swore she wouldn't read. By the end of it, she made a decision. When she returned the following Monday, she opened the show with a surprising message. "Before we begin," she said softly, "I want to talk about something important. I've been on television for over 3 decades, and I've prided myself on being kind, curious, and fair. Last week, I wasn't kind. I let my ego speak louder than my empathy." There was a long pause. Then she added, "Kate, if you're watching, I'm sorry." It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't rehearsed. It was sincere. Later that afternoon, Kate Winslet posted on Instagram for the first time since the incident. A simple photo of the sea, with the caption, "Greater than, we all stumble. What matters is what we do after." Within minutes, fans flooded both women's pages with messages of support. The feud that had started as a heated clash ended with something rare in show business: humility. Both women would later admit, in separate interviews, that the encounter changed them. Lorraine learned that sometimes, the toughest question is knowing when not to ask. And Kate realized that even the loudest storm can lead to calmer tides. Their story, of pride, pressure, and public redemption, would go down as one of the most unforgettable moments in British television history.